All right, welcome, everybody. So glad to have you here today. It is the day that we tell the truth. In our Time to Tell the Truth series, I love it, I love it, I love it. I'm so grateful that I'm having the opportunity to do this and chosen to do it. So I said yes. And I believe that we're going to touch a lot of lives and save a lot of people from going through some things that they don't have to go through if we just tell the truth, because we're destroyed because of the lack of knowledge. My name is Dr. Rosalind Shaw Belt. Everybody calls me Dr. Roz, and I am the CEO of Dream to Life Productions Ministry, LLC, and Incorporated, nonprofit. And so this is part of what we do as it relates to the nonprofit. We get the word out. It's about educating us. I'm also a wife and a musician and a bunch of other stuff that I've been privileged to be a part of and do. I do have a doctorate, but it's not a medical doctor. I have two doctorates, theology and divinity, but I'm a certified wellness coach. Yes, I've got some credentials. Yes, certified Akana and lifestyle consultant, as well as a certified wellness coach under our flat belly lifestyle 2.0 with our naturopathic doctor, Dr. Eric Prince. Really proud of that. So let's get started today. This is part 2. Now, if you have not seen part 1, I encourage you to go back to the YouTube page, find that YouTube page or ask somebody about it and subscribe. We've done a lot of different teachings on a lot of different subjects, but right now we're focusing on a subject that is so prevalent, especially in our community, diabetes. And this is part 2.
You and I know that the Black community carries a high burden from type 2 diabetes, and that diabetes brings with it a higher risk for heart disease and stroke. We also know that it will take each one of us to change that, all of us working together with our families, communities, and our allies. Right now, let's all commit to one action to give type 2 a take two, either for ourselves or for the ones we love.
And that's what we want to do. We want to get rid of this thing. I mean, we don't have to live with it. We don't have to address ourselves as being a diabetic. That's one of the first things I like to tell people. You may be dealing with diabetes, but you are not a diabetic. So we know that the chances of having diabetes actually go up. First of all, if you're overweight. Secondly, if you don't exercise. And thirdly, even if you have high blood pressure, if you've been diagnosed with high blood pressure. But did you know that your odds can also sometimes be tied to your race and ethnicity, even your family's country of origin? Now, we know that everybody's different, and there are many things that affect your health and whether you get diabetes or not, your weight and age, how active you are, other conditions you have. But a lot of research does show that it's more common in certain groups of people.
When you have diabetes, you simply must be mindful about the foods that you eat. And this doesn't just mean avoiding sugars alone. It also means being careful about the sodium, the trans fats, the starchy vegetables, and you must be aware of unhealthy foods that have sneaky labels like fat-free. Diabetes is a leading risk factor for heart disease, strokes, kidney failure, blindness, amputations, and a major part of managing your diabetes is knowing what foods to put in your mouth.
So now, as we get into this today, we're going to talk about a lot of the things that we don't want to put into our mouth, or at least we want to minimize. Y'all know that when I'm talking to people, I'm all about making steps. It's not like a slam bam, thank you, ma'am. You got to get rid of everything. I know that it's a journey. And so I encourage you to take the journey and start being more intentional about what you do. When you pick up something, now you're going to hear that voice, or you're going to hear these teachings and cause you to say, okay, well, I'm not going to do that today. And the more you say, I'm not going to do it today, it becomes tomorrow, it becomes next week, next month, and all of a sudden you look at it and you don't remember the last time you had it. So let's jump into this. And it's not only, I know we're talking about those that are considered to be diabetic or have diabetes, but how about us learning before we're diagnosed? Maybe you're watching this and you have not been diagnosed, and maybe somebody sent you that video and you're saying, why did they send that to me? Well, because we don't want you to ever become a diabetic.
You need to remove all of the added sugar. Now, here's the thing. If you're going to remove added sugar from your diet, you need to learn how to read labels, because a lot of times when you're reading the label, you'll see it may say it only has 5 grams of sugar in it total, which isn't necessarily good, because all of it is bad because it's unnatural sugar. But the thing that you're not looking at is the amount of servings in it. It may have 10 servings. So you're really consuming 50 grams of sugar. Okay, so if you're going to remove added sugar from your diet, that 162 pounds of sugar that I mentioned earlier, you gotta learn how to read labels, or you gotta learn how to eat natural. And what that means is eat like I suggest, eat natural whole foods, not the grocery store, but foods that have one ingredient.
And we've heard that often, right? We've heard that over and over and over again. Eat the foods that have one ingredient or very limited number of ingredients. One of the things that stopped me from driving to McDonald's is because when I recognized that the French fries had 16 ingredients. I can go get a potato and some seasoning myself at home, and I can just use 3 ingredients: the potato, the seasoning, and the oil, right? So what's the crazy thing about 16 different ingredients? But when we think about where we live, well, where we live makes a difference. It doesn't have to, but because we tend to genetically do what our parents did, and we often say, well, it's in my DNA. My mama had diabetes, my grandmother had diabetes, my great-grandmama had an amputation, so it just must be in my blood. Well, usually what's happening is we do what they did, so we have what they had. And when we look at this chart, I see a bunch of southern states. I live in the South, guys. And so I have to tell on ourselves, when we look at some of these states, not all of them are in the South, but there are a majority of them. Look at that, who has the most age-adjusted percentage of prevalence of diabetes. West Virginia, oh my God, Mississippi, Louisiana, Alabama, Kentucky, Tennessee, Arkansas, South Carolina, Oklahoma, Georgia, North Carolina, and I'll stop when we get to Texas. But it's a list. I mean, just look at that. Oh my goodness. So it's not that we have to have this. This does not have to be a truth. We can literally do something about it.
Alcohol. Yes, yes, yes. Alcohol. It is full of carbs, especially if you're someone who likes to drink a lot of beer. You want to be a carb counter. Now, there are many reasons that it is recommended that you avoid alcohol, especially in excess. But if you are a person with diabetes or pre-diabetes, then it's even more prudent that you avoid a lot of alcohol. It can send your blood sugar up, increase your belly fat, and it's just bad news if you have diabetes.
So last week I ended with this. This week I wanted to start with this because oftentimes we don't recognize what is necessary, even if you're a pre-diabetic or if you just don't want to have it, then we recognize there's some things that we need to do. And there's some that are better or worse than others. And I want to reach and touch that because maybe you are a drinker, maybe you are a social drinker, maybe you are a weekend drinker. I love to do it on the weekend, but there's some that are better than others. My husband and I used to go to a place every Wednesday and we would get a margarita. And now I recognize, because it's combined with things, that's what I should stay away from. So what's worse? Those that are high in sugar, high in carbs, those that are loaded with sugar, and then they make the liver work extra hard, like your sweet wines. Yeah, I love the sweet wines, the Moscato, the port, the dessert wines, the cocktails. There's my margarita. There it is. Oh my God. I'm telling you, don't shoot the messenger. Every time I'm sharing this, I'm talking to myself. The daiquiris, the pina coladas. What do we do when we go on the cruise ships? That's all they have on the cruise ships, right? Cocktails, flavored spirits and liqueurs, Baileys, the Fireball. Some of y'all don't know what I'm talking about, but if you do, then you understand. And then the beer, regular beer and cider. So these kind of cocktails can have up to 20 to 50 grams of sugar in one drink. And let's remember what our formula is. Divide the grams by 4, and that tells you how many teaspoons of sugar you are taking. It's just like spooning it into a glass and turning it up. But then there are some that are better, that are okay. But now, if you're diabetic, please understand, if you are dealing with diabetes, if you are insulin resistance, pre-diabetic, then less is more. Less. You got to have less than anything we talk about here. And daily drinking, even in safe amounts, still taxes the liver. But if you're that person that wants that occasional, that social drink, here's what they suggest for women: up to 1 drink per day. For men, up to 2 drinks per day. And 1 drink equals a ½ ounce of wine, 12 ounces of beer, and 1½ ounces of liquor. And I have to say this again, when's the last time you saw brothers in the store getting their beer and they just got 1 can, 12 ounce? Not so. No, they get the whole case. They get the 6 ounce, 6 in a case, or the 12 or the 24 in a case. And they're not drinking it by themselves. They're drinking it with some other folk, but they're drinking more than 1. And so we go to happy hours and we're drinking more than 1. So we've got to do it in moderation so that we can keep ourselves in a very, very healthy space, or not at all.
Baked goods. Oh yes, baked goods like donuts, cookies, cakes, cupcakes. If you have diabetes, I'm asking you to avoid these things, because when you have the real sugar and these ultra processed flours, these ultra processed foods, they can be really bad for your diabetes. They can send your blood sugar up. They have a high carbohydrate load, and they're just not good for you. Not to fear, there are some things you can do. You can bake your own goods, or you can make sure that you eat baked goods that are made with sugar substitutes or with low carb flours or even nut flours. There are options, but if you have diabetes, then having these baked goods, these ultra processed baked foods, you want to avoid it.
So when she talked about the baked goods, I wanted to really just dig into all of these subjects that she's mentioning, because there are some that are worse than others. Okay, if you're that person that's, you're an addict to the donuts and etc., I need you to understand there are some that are typically high, really high in refined sugars and white flour and unhealthy fats. Don't we understand there's a reason why so much diabetes is in our neighborhood, in our culture? So donuts, why it's not great? Because it's deep fried, full of sugar, and that equals blood sugar. It's a roller coaster. Store-bought muffins, they sometimes disguise those as being healthy, but when you read the label, they're packed with sugar and oil. Cinnamon rolls, oh my God, the beautiful cinnamon roll with all the white icing on it, white flour, sugar-laden icing, butter overload. The croissants, especially when they're filled, buttery, flaky, 0 fiber, super easy to overeat. Pastries, and the beloved pound cake. Who doesn't love a good pound cake? But how is it made? Dense with butter and sugar, no fiber whatsoever, and no nutrients to balance it out. But then there are some baked goods that are a little more satisfying and nourishing, especially when you make them with whole plant-based ingredients, like homemade oatmeal muffins. They're low in sugar. Sweet potato or pumpkin bread, black bean brownies, almond flour cookies, banana bread, and chia seed crackers or bars. So many, many more. But oftentimes we don't even try to do the research. We don't look for those kinds of places to buy them. We have a place here in Houston. If you're watching this and you're in Houston, it's called Sinful Bakery. It's over on Webster. And the goods, you would not know it's not using real sugar. Oatmeal cookies are great. The chocolate chip cookies are fantastic. But they're using ingredients that are safe and healthy.
Barbecue sauce. It is with a heavy heart that I report that if you have diabetes, barbecue sauce is one of the worst foods you can eat. Let me explain, because I know barbecue sauce seems pretty benign, and I'm from the South. I love barbecue. But let's just say you have your diabetes and you're trying to have a lean lunch. And so you prepare a chicken breast with white meat, no skin. Well, in order to spice up the flavor a little bit, you decide to add some barbecue sauce. Well, if you add 1 tablespoon of barbecue sauce, that's 7 grams of sugar. But you know you're going to do more than just 1 tablespoon. So if you add 2 tablespoons of barbecue sauce, that's 14 grams of sugar, which already is about half of the daily recommended sugar that you should take in. This high sugar is not good for your diabetes. It will spike your blood sugar and cause you to be a poorly managed diabetic. And so if you have diabetes, barbecue sauce, as well as other prepackaged sauces like tomato sauces or even salad dressings, these are among the worst foods you could eat.
The worst food you could eat. Nobody uses a tablespoon of barbecue sauce, man. You're looking at the bottle, we go and get it, even if we don't make our own, and there's some unhealthy barbecue sauces. One of the real popular ones that's on the market now is called Sweet Baby Ray's. Look at it, 17 grams. Oh my goodness. Jack Daniel's barbecue sauce, Bullseye, Kraft, KC Masterpiece. There are some that are healthier. So I need you to take a look at these. Begin to do the investigation yourself and find out some. Look at this, only 2 grams of sugar in Primal Kitchen. Good food for go. Whatever's in your area, you begin to find out if any of these, Annie's Organic Maple, Stubbs Original. So it doesn't mean, the reason I want you to see the alternatives, because it doesn't mean you have to give it up. It just means we need to find something that's better for us. And if you're going to use Sweet Baby Ray's, then I'm telling you, you got to just use 1 tablespoon. That's not enough for 1 rib. And then there are other alternatives that are healthier and cleaner, like making your own. Yes, yes, yes. You can make your own homemade healthy barbecue sauce. All you got to do is get all the different ingredients. The tomato paste, that has no salt or no salt added ketchup, the apple cider vinegar, the maple syrup or date paste, which is a natural sweetener, smoked paprika, the garlic powder, the mustard powder, and a dash of liquid smoke. And voila, salt to taste, and you've got your own barbecue sauce. You know what you put in it, see? So now it's so much healthier for you to have with your barbecue. And then there's some other options that you can even use, like balsamic glaze plus smoked paprika, harissa plus date syrup, tahini, barbecue fusion, and miso mustard glaze. I dare you. Just Google those things and find out a recipe. Put those names in the Google and put recipe. And if you're using ChatGPT, do the same thing, and they'll create and show you what recipe you can do it for yourself.
Breakfast cereals. If you have diabetes and you think that eating a breakfast cereal is a healthy way to start your day, please think again, because breakfast cereals can be very unhealthy. Now, if you're listening to me, you might be thinking, Dr. Frieda, not me, because my breakfast cereal says fat-free. Well, guess what? When manufacturers make things that are fat-free and they label it in really big letters, they're doing it to advertise that the food is healthier, at least to make you think that. But if they take away the fat out of your cereal, they still have to make it taste good, right? So you'll eat it. So what do? They replace it with sugars. In fact, some of these breakfast cereals have as high as 25% sugar. Go ahead, look at your label, be a label watcher. What you want to do when you have diabetes is have foods with low sugar. You want to stick to a breakfast that has high protein and low carbs. Breakfast cereals are loaded down with carbohydrates and sugars, and they have low protein and low fiber usually. So eating a breakfast cereal is one of the worst foods you can eat if you're diabetic. And go ahead and look at the labels of instant oatmeal, because that's not good for you either.
So now I'm going to say it again. We're talking about if you're a diabetic. But guess what? If you're not a diabetic, you don't want to be. So then we need to take heed to everything that we're hearing today, because the top 5 unhealthiest cereals are probably the top 5 most popular cereals. And we're giving them to our kids. Kellogg's Honey Smacks, Post Golden Crisp, Captain Crunch, Fruit Loops, and the well-known, it's great, Frosted Flakes. Yes, those are the top 5 unhealthiest cereals. So now let's look at the cereals that are more healthy. Why? Because they're lower in sugar. Uncle Sam's cereal. I don't know what the heck that is. Never heard of it. 3 Wishes unsweetened. Ezekiel. Now, I've been eating Ezekiel bread while I was on the Daniel fast, and I'm starting to love that. So now they even have the cereal with, look at that, with no added sugar. Barbara's shredded wheat and Nature's Path Smart Brain. And I probably believe that most of us have never even heard of these brands, but they're out there, and I hope they're in your area.
I don't even have to say this one because you already know. You already know. Candy. You know that candy is loaded with sugar and it will send your blood sugar up. And here are some jelly beans, because who doesn't love jelly beans? Well, if you have diabetes, you really should not, because jelly beans, candy bars, lollipops, all of these things are loaded with sugar. So try to do something different. If you simply must have some form of a candy, try a dark chocolate, okay, with a very low sugar content. Or try some sugar-free candies. Or if you have a sweet tooth, then try some fruit. Be careful though, because fruits still do have natural sugars, they still do have carbs, so make sure you consult with your physician and your dietitian to find out the carb count that's right for you and which fruits are safe for you if you have diabetes.
Guys, there's a reason Temptation Alley. You know what Temptation Alley is? That's when you're standing in the line, going to the checkout counter at the grocery store. Everything's low, that's Temptation Alley. So before you finish loading your stuff onto the cart, onto the little the moving thing there to get to cash out there, you look over there to the right, and your kids look over there to the right, and Mama, can I have this? And there's nothing but candies and sweets, because that's Temptation Alley. So there's a reason why you always hear people say dark chocolate. Well, why? Why dark chocolate versus the milk chocolate? Because the milk chocolate is what's really good, right? But the dark chocolate is healthier than the milk chocolate because it has more cocoa, less sugar. I made some brownies one time, and they were used with dark chocolate, and we used maple syrup and cocoa and cacao, and it was delicious. Less sugar, 70 to 90% cocoa from the dark chocolate. Milk chocolate is diluted with sugar, milk, solids, and fillers. More cocoa equals more nutrients and less sugar crash. Plus, dark chocolate is packed with antioxidants, and that helps you shield yourself against cancer and so many other illnesses that we deal with. It's rich in flavonols, which are powerful antioxidants that fight inflammation and oxidative stress. We don't want to be on the inside of us rusting out like a banana that's turning colors because you sit it out. No, it's one of the highest ranking foods on the ORAC scale. So number 3, it supports heart health. The flavonols in dark chocolate helps to improve your blood flow, lower your blood pressure, reduce your LDL. Check out the person that's in your life or in your family that is dealing with diabetes, and how many sweets are they eating? How many candy bars are they consuming? Mars and Hershey's and all those different ones. What's their mood like? What's their brain boost like? Their blood sugar. Well, that's part of the reason, because they really could just switch over. And you know what? And your taste buds will make the adjustment. So you got to be aware. Go for 70% plus cacao for health benefits. Skip the bars with the added sugar, the caramel, and the candy pieces. And even dark chocolate does have some calories, so moderation is still key.
You want to avoid canned fruits, okay? Fruits that are canned with all of this sugar, this syrupy water, they're not good for you. And I know that we talk about all of the servings of fruits that you should have a day, but when we do that, we're not talking about the canned fruits, because they, again, are just loaded down with preservatives and with sugar that is not good for your diabetes. What you can do instead is have fresh fruit. You want to have fresh strawberries, fresh blueberries, or if you're going to have something that's packaged, a fruit that's packaged, make sure that it's packaged in water and not in sugar.
Not in the syrup, right? We know back in the day, I remember as a kid, they wanted you to eat some fruit, so they gave you fruit cocktail, but it was heavy in syrup. Multiple fruits, all in that sugar. Canned peaches, canned pineapple. Oh, those cherries, we love them. We love to put them on our stuff. Cherry pie filling, canned pears in heavy syrup. I mean, it says heavy syrup on the label. Canned apricots, mandarin oranges in light syrup, still has added sugar. Canned oh my God, cranberry sauce. I just wrecked your Thanksgiving dinner. I know. Okay, don't shoot the messenger. I'm so sorry.
You want to avoid condiments that are high in sugar. I have ketchup here. I know y'all love ketchup and y'all like to load it down on your fries or your sandwiches, and you don't really count it when you're doing your carb counts, but pay attention because ketchup and especially barbecue sauce, oh my gosh, you could be making yourself a nice, really lean piece of white meat, grilled chicken, but if you add barbecue sauce, check the label. It could be loaded with sugar, and if you have diabetes, it's something to avoid.
And you know, nobody uses a little bit of ketchup. They drain it with ketchup. You drain the fries with ketchup. I know some people put ketchup on green. I know some people that put ketchup on everything, okay? And so then you have to really multiply the amount of sugar that's in the back of that. But there are alternatives, guys. There's even ketchup. There's organic ketchup. Yes, it is. There's ketchup that has no sugar at all, or tomato paste that's made with dates. There's vegan mayo, there's avocado mayo, there's hummus and mashed avocado. There's unsweetened barbecue sauce and homemade versions. There's Greek yogurt and herbs to not use all the thick ranch dressing. Oh, I see you, I hear you. Soy sauce, there's coconut aminos and low sodium tamari. There's sour cream. Now let's get the plain Greek yogurt. Then, you know, you can add your own fruit to it. Even for the traditional honey mustard, Dijon is much, much better. Plus the maple syrup or date paste, hot sauce, clean label or fermented chili paste. The alternative for creamy dressing is tahini, avocado, or oil-free vinaigrettes. And the alternative for tartar sauce is avocado plus pickles plus lemon juice.
Dairy. You want to stay away from dairy, and why? As I mentioned before, that lock and key system becomes gummed up with saturated fat. And guess where we get a lot of our saturated fat? Dairy products. As a matter of fact, if you were to look at milk, and milk is cheese, but cheese is the water removed from milk. So when you see cheese, like back in the days, you see these blocks of cheese that people will get, and that's how it comes. That is simply milk with the water removed from it, dehydrated milk, okay? So that leftover portion is the fat. That's all cheese is. It is the fat left over from the milk. So it's so important that you understand that when you're consuming dairy, you're putting fat in the body, and when you're putting fat in the body, you can gum up that lock and key system by putting so much fat deposits, not only in your muscles, but also in your liver too, which is hugely important because your liver not only manufactures, sugar or glycogen or glucose, but it also stores sugar as well too. Okay, so when your liver becomes fatty, now you don't have this balancing system that was created to balance your blood sugar as well too, because now your liver is fatty. Okay, diabetes is one of the #1 causes of a fatty liver, okay, which is hugely important.
See, he didn't say it, but I'm gonna say it. They did us wrong. Government cheese. Y'all remember the government cheese? He just said it. It's the leftover and it's the fat. Oh, that's so wrong. That's so wrong to just give us the leftover and it's killing us. It's leading us down the path to destiny with diabetes, high blood pressure, and all the different sicknesses and eventually cancer, because we've been having that because that's all we could afford, or that's all could be afforded in certain neighborhoods. But even if you knew better, that doesn't mean you have to settle for that.
Dried fruit and fruit snacks. Now this one might surprise you, but just because a food says fruit does not mean that it's healthy. So when you're dealing with fruit snacks, for example, they're advertised and they look like they might be healthy, but look at that label. They have very high added sugar. If you have diabetes, you want to avoid them. So then you think, okay, well, dried fruit, that's pretty natural. That's not so bad. The issue with dried fruit is that it's very concentrated. And so you're ending up getting more and more sugar in a small amount. Take grapes, for example. 1 cup of grapes has about 27 grams of sugar. Well, if you have the dried fruit version, raisins, well, now 1 cup has 145 grams of sugar. That's more than 4 times the daily recommended sugar for a man. And so you have to be careful when you have this dried fruit because again, it has more concentrated sugars, so you're taking in more sugar, which certainly can spike your blood sugar levels and be bad for your diabetes. If you want fruit, stick with whole fruits like pears or apples because they are loaded with fiber and nutrients, and eat the skin as well. You want to avoid fruits that have a high glycemic index like bananas. Watch out for fruit juices as well, because with fruit juice, you have the juice, but you don't have the fiber. And so having a cup of fruit juice can spike your blood sugar as well.
We don't want to spike the blood sugar. So let's talk about these dried fruits because we tend to think, okay, that must be okay. But some of the worst dried fruits are the dried pineapple rings, the sweetened dried cranberries, the dried banana chips, the dried mango, the candied ginger, the dried papaya chunks, the dried apples with sugar, cherries sweetened, dried apricots, and the trail mix with yogurt raisins. All of these things are high in sugar.
Energy drinks. If you have diabetes, then you know that exercising is another way to help to manage your diabetes. But if you are drinking sports energy drinks to get your boost of energy before you exercise, please rethink that one. Rethink it because most of these energy drinks are loaded down with sugar. And a lot of them have that high fructose corn syrup, which is one of the worst additions that you can put in a food product. So go ahead, yes, look at that label. One bottle of an energy drink will often have 32 grams of sugar, which is more than the daily recommended maximum sugar intake for the average woman in the US. Instead of the energy drink, just drink water. You can squeeze a little lemon in it, but if you have diabetes, then you do want to avoid these high sugar containing energy drinks.
So now here's what I want you to do. If you have a son or a nephew or a grandkid, daughter, son, and they're in sports, you need to tell that coach, I need you to put water in that tank and stop feeding them all of these different energy drinks. I mean, look, here's some of the worst energy drinks. Bang Energy, 300 milligrams of caffeine. That gives you a crash as well as giving you a punch upwards. Redline Extreme, 5-hour energy extra. Monster, so popular. Rockstar, absolutely popular, right? Rain Total Body Fuel, C4 Energy, Full Throttle. I've seen that one right there in the case when you walk there, full of these energy drinks. And these are the worst energy drinks for your health.
Fast food. You already know. Fast food is loaded with high fats, high sugars, high salt. Bad for you for many reasons, especially if you have diabetes. Now, there are options. Now, if you go to many of the fast food restaurants, they'll have salads, they'll have lettuce wraps. You can substitute lettuce for your bread. Yeah, they'll look at you a little bit crazy, but you can do it. So if you're in a situation where you must have fast food, look for the healthy options. Oftentimes they'll even have the calories listed, the carbs listed. But as far as the traditional fast foods, and you know what they are, it's something you want to avoid. Also, look into meal prep. Most of the times when we go to fast food, it's because we don't have a lot of time, we have to move. But if you take the time and prepare and do healthy meal prep, you can keep yourself from being in situations where you're dependent upon fast food.
And that's what usually happens. You're going outside, you're ready to move, you're going somewhere from point A to point B, and you didn't take anything with you. So you stop at the fast food place.
Fatty, fried food. Now, if you're from the South like I am, then, fried food can be a staple, especially fried chicken. But truth of the matter is that if you have diabetes, you really should avoid it. When you're dealing with fatty fried foods, it's bad for so many reasons. One, it can lead to an increase in insulin resistance, okay? It can make you gain weight, and it can increase your belly fat or your abdominal fat, which again can decrease your insulin resistance and make your diabetes worse, or it can shift you from pre-diabetes to actually having diabetes. And it can also do so many other bad things, such as being bad for your heart health, causing high cholesterol, clogging your arteries. So you definitely want to avoid these fatty fried foods. That doesn't mean you can't still have fun. You can still enjoy yourself. If you're going to cook your meats, make sure that you grill them or bake them. Try not to add too much salt. Get more creative with your flavors by using things like garlic, lemon zest, even pepper. But definitely, if you have diabetes, you want to avoid these fatty fried foods.
Now, it's no question, right, why our community is living with diabetes. It's no question why we have high blood pressure running rampant in our numbers. They say 1 in 10 people are diabetic.
Fatty meats. If you have a lot of fatty meats, this can be bad for your diabetes. The fatty meats can decrease your insulin sensitivity and worsen your blood sugar levels. And when I'm talking about fatty meats, I mean marbled steaks like ribeye. I know ribeye tastes good to you, but it's a fatty meat. It's not good for you if you have diabetes. But you can still eat meat if you do enjoy meat. Just do a lean meat, okay? Like a lean sirloin. Or do a fish like a salmon, mackerel, halibut. You know, those fish are loaded with omega-3 fatty acids, so that's good for you. If you eat chicken, make sure you eat white meat chicken and take the skin off if you please. But again, you want to avoid fatty meats. Also avoid these ultra processed meats like bacon or these deli meats that are prepackaged. And of course, avoid having a lot of salty pork. You can also try plant-based meat substitutes, but make sure you read the label and check the salt content.
Make sure you read the label. She said, help me, please. So I just wanted to get into this because this is a real touchy, sensitive area right here because we love, love, love our fried chicken. But let's look at the fattiest meats, When you go to the store, you're in that meat section. I need you to know, I need you to hear the voice, right? Pork belly, the fattiest, 53 grams of fat. Duck with skin, 39 grams of fat. Remember the formula, divided by 4. That's how many teaspoons of sugar we're intaking. That's what's causing the diabetes in our life. The lamb ribs, the beef ribeye. Lord have mercy. The bacon. People eat bacon every day. Some people eat bacon and they're not just eating one strip of bacon, multiple strips of bacon every single morning. The sausage, and then sometimes they're having the bacon and the sausage and the ham, okay? So the ground beef, we love our ground beef, but look at that, 30 grams of fat. And that's the 70-30 ground beef. The goose, the brisket, all you barbecue lovers, I'm just saying, don't shoot the messenger, your spare ribs. But let's look at the leanest. She said, okay, so we're not saying you can't have it. And then you might need to know what your blood type is, because we teach that as well about knowing your blood type, because there's certain things you shouldn't have according to your blood type. But if you're that person who is, it's okay, some of these meats are on your list, then make sure they're the leanest cuts, all right? The skinless, she said, take the skin off of the chicken breast, the turkey breast, the bison, the venison, the rabbit. Oh, we're going back to old school now, right? The ostrich. Never had ostrich. I saw a picture of that and I went, well, where do you get that from? Pork tenderloin, tuna in the water pack, not the oil pack, cod and halibut.
High glycemic index foods, okay? High glycemic. What is high glycemic? Glycemic means that it elevates the blood sugar. So when you eat this food, and let's say you were to take your blood sugar after consuming it, you will notice that it spikes your blood sugar levels. So these are high glycemic index foods. You want to eat low glycemic index foods, okay? But the high glycemic index foods are going to be the things I just mentioned. The refined carbohydrates, the starches, sugary drinks. Do not drink liquid sugar. Okay, and when I tell you that is the worst way to consume sugar, it is by far the worst. Let me explain why. Because the natural way to consume sugar is through fruit, okay? Fruit have fiber, okay? So fiber attaches to sugar, okay? So when you're consuming the fruit and it breaks down, the sugar is still attached to the fiber. The fiber has to be slowly broken down in the stomach, okay? As it's being slowly broken down in the stomach and in the intestines primarily, small intestines, when it's being broken down, that sugar is being slowly released when it's attached to fiber. Well, guess what? When you consume refined carbohydrates, and especially sugary beverages, which have zero fiber in them, okay? Now you have no fiber for protection. It's literally like taking sugar in your hand and throwing it into the blood, okay? Literally taking sugar in your hand and throwing it into the blood system, which is gonna make the insulin levels spike, okay? So hugely important. You wanna stay away from the sugary beverages, even the zero beverages. So when you see those Coke Zeros and whatever Zeros, it may say no sugar, no carbs. Guess what? It has an artificial sweetener in it. And that artificial sweetener triggers you to eat more. That artificial sweetener actually has been proven in science, even though it technically doesn't have any carbs or sugar in it, it increases your risk for diabetes and also obesity. And as I told you guys before, the more fat we have in the body, the more gummed up that lock and key system will be. So insulin won't be able to get blood sugar inside of the cell, okay? So you gotta stay away from the sugary beverages, no matter how they come, sodas or, even when you're making these beverages that are lemonade or whatever it may be, you wanna stay away from those as well too. And then you wanna eat high glycemic fruits, even high glycemic fruits. You wanna eat those sparingly too, because they aren't really the issue. High glycemic fruit, an example of that will be watermelon, which is actually very nutritious for you. But because you have such an imbalance in your body when it comes to sugar, and you have such an imbalance when it comes to insulin resistance, because of that, now you wanna lay off of the things that are even natural that have a high glycemic index as well too. So you wanna stay away from those like watermelon and cantaloupe. In the meantime, you can have like a cup and a half, which will be fine because they have very few carbs, but you wanna kinda eat those sparingly as well too, all right? Until you start to regain that balance, that blood sugar balance and that insulin balance back in the body.
How many of you have ever seen a person go to one of those bars, salad bar, and they load up their plate with all these good, beautiful greens and tomatoes and cucumbers and everything, and then they load it up with dressing, and then they sit down and eat a zero drink, thinking they're doing the right thing. See, that's why we've got to be educated, because we have thought we're trying to do the right thing, but not realizing that all these artificial sweeteners are in there.
Flavored coffee. Listen, I know everyone loves flavored coffee. You like to walk around with your different cups and your lattes and your frappuccinos and all of these things. But if you have diabetes, you want to be careful about the flavored coffee that you drink, because a lot of them are loaded down with sugar, and these are liquid calories. You won't even get full from them, but you'll be sitting there spiking your blood sugar. Just one typical cup of a flavored coffee can have 60 grams of sugar or more. And so if you do have coffee, then you want to make sure that you have coffee that has very low added sugars. Watch the label, and if you're at a coffee shop, ask them how much added sugar is in the product.
So let's take a look at some of these coffees, all right? Because we know we love our coffee, right? But the flavored coffees, and Starbucks is making a killing off of it. Starbucks white chocolate mocha, 73 grams of sugar. Come on, do the math. Somebody do the math, divided by 4 and put it in the chat. How many teaspoons is that? Dunkin' frozen mocha swirl. And the thing that I notice about all of these, they have multiple names too. Okay, International Delight Caramel Creamer, McDonald's Iced Caramel Coffee, Starbucks Bottled Frappuccino Mocha. I mean, all of this tastes great because they've added all these different things. Dunkin' Vanilla Swirl Iced Coffee, Coffee Mate Hazelnut Creamer, at the gas station, the cappuccino machine, oh my goodness, flavored latte packets, and cold brew with syrup. These are the 10 worst flavored coffees for your health.
French fries. White potatoes are already a starchy vegetable, which is somewhat of a nightmare for diabetes. But when you take that potato, you slice it up, you fry it in oils, especially oils with trans fats, and then you load it up with salt, well, this is definitely a food that you want to avoid. If you simply must have a French fry, try a healthier option like sweet potato fries. Slice up the sweet potato, put some oil, like an olive oil on the sweet potato, and put them in the oven.
Now, y'all know I'm the queen, right? I'm telling on myself. That's right. I'm preaching to the house right here, because we've got to make changes to what we're currently doing so that we can make changes to our health.
Starches, okay? Starches, again, starch is rice. I mean, even, the rice is a problem as well too, but also corn, potatoes, yuca, cassava for those in the Caribbean and African brothers and sisters. These are things that you need to remove as well too, because they turn into sugar in the body, okay? Potato turns in, especially the white potato, turns straight into sugar. I'll give you an example. If you were to compare the Japanese purple potato to the white potato, there's no comparison. The white potato is an empty food, okay? It's a starch, and starch is sugar, and it converts into sugar in the body, elevates the sugar, okay? So stay away from starches as well too. Again, corn, potatoes, yuca, cassava. Stay away from the starch, okay, as well too. And starch is acidic as well too. And we all know that sugar is acid. It makes the body more acidic as well too, which makes the body more inflamed as well too, all right? And all chronic diseases, diabetes, hypertension, cancer, Alzheimer's, dementia, all have the underlying pinning of inflammation, okay? So starches turn into acid, acid makes the body inflamed.
Wow. He said a whole lot. He said a mouthful right there.
Potatoes. If you have diabetes, you want to avoid potatoes and other starchy vegetables. One white potato can have 40 grams of carbohydrates and only 4 grams of fiber. And so if you simply must have a potato, try to use a sweet potato as a healthier choice.
So I just, me being a weakness in this area, I had to play that 3 times to instill that I get this. And then I just had to take a look at, okay, well, what potatoes can I have, right? The top 5 healthiest potatoes: sweet potato, the purple potato, the red potato, the Yukon Gold potato, and the new baby potato. So again, I want you to get it. We don't not necessarily have to have them, but we've got to make sure, we want to make sure that we're getting the right ones. And then quick tips to make your potatoes healthier. Eat the skin. That's where a lot of the fiber is. So all the time we shouldn't be, raking off the skin. Boil them, bake them, or roast them. All right? Cool after you're cooking them. This increases the resistant starch, which helps your gut health and your blood sugar. And then pair the potato with some healthy fats, like she just said. Instead of the oil that doesn't do us any good, vegetable oil. Back in the day we had Crisco. Somebody said that the other day, Crisco. Oh my God, we were killing ourselves. Like olive oil or avocado oil, grapeseed oil. That boosts the nutrient absorption, especially for sweet potatoes.
Fried chicken. I don't have to tell you that. You already know that fried chicken is one of the worst things you can eat if you're diabetic. I know it tastes good, but it's not good for you. Fried chicken has a lot of sodium, which is not good. It also is fried. And so if it's fried in oils, especially oils with all kinds of trans fats, that's something that can worsen diabetes. Now, the trans fats in and of themselves don't directly increase your blood sugar, but high trans fats can increase insulin resistance. They can increase belly fat. They can lower your HDL. In other words, they can lower the cholesterol that we consider a good cholesterol. So you want to avoid fried chicken along with other fried foods if you have diabetes. Oh, and if you're looking at labels, how do you know if something has trans fats in it? If the label has partially hydrogenated, avoid it.
Yeah, thank you for that, Dr. Frida, because fried chicken is in our culture. But, one of the things we tend to think, and we stereotype our culture, the African-American culture, with fried chicken. And really, the historical roots, as we go back and look at our historical roots, it was during slavery in the United States that enslaved Africans were only allowed to raise chickens, not cattle or pigs. And fried chicken could be made in a pan over a fire that was portable, and it lasted without having to refrigerate it, making it a smart option for travel or long work days. It became a symbol of resourcefulness and independence. And then the Southern culture has an influence. Fried chicken is a staple of Southern cuisine. And African Americans have long been central to shaping and perfecting Southern food traditions. Seasoned and fried food techniques go way back to the West African cooking styles where frying and bold spices were already common. Cultural legacy and celebration. For generations, fried chicken was a special occasion food. made for family gatherings, Sunday dinners. It's one of the staple meals in the church, right? So it wasn't about overindulgence. It was really about love, community, and tradition. But yet it still was not the thing that we should be doing. So that's where the stereotype has come, because sadly during segregation and Jim Crow, fried chicken was weaponized as a racist stereotype. And not only during Jim Crow, that's still happening today. So there are alternatives, guys. Listen, the more you try these things, don't knock it until you try it. Oyster mushrooms. They're meaty, they're stringy texture like pulled chicken. And if you cook it the right way and dip it in the batter and pan fry it and air fry it, make it golden, it could be an alternative to your fried chicken. Satine, however that's pronounced, tofu, jackfruit, cauliflower, tempeh, and chickpea cutlets. I'm gonna say it again. Don't knock it until you try it. Open up your mind to say, okay, I'm gonna try some of these things and see. I didn't say they taste like chicken. I see people say that sometimes. And I just don't agree with, saying something tastes like something if it doesn't really taste like it. But could it be an alternative? Absolutely.
Honey, agave, nectar. I don't care what kind of fancy name you use. Check the label. It's still sugar. It's still high in carbohydrates, and you should still avoid it if you have diabetes. Yes. If you simply must have a sweetener, try to use a substitute like stevia. Again, consult with your physician and your dietitian. And actually test yourself out. You may not always need sugar like you think you do. For example, if you're a tea drinker like I am, use a little lemon. Lemon is great. It's loaded with vitamin C. It's loaded with citrate. That's good for your digestion, can help prevent kidney stones. But definitely understand that just because the word sugar is not in the name, it doesn't mean that it's a good sweetener. Avoid these things if you have diabetes. Ice cream and full-fat dairy products. If you have diabetes, it's something you want to avoid. You know ice cream can be loaded with sugar and can spike your blood sugar levels. Now, there are some creamy substitutes you can try. You can try a chia pudding, okay? Or you can even try kind of your homemade strawberry ice cream that's not really ice cream. For example, you can chop yourself up some strawberries and use a low-fat yogurt or even a low-fat non-dairy yogurt or some type of a cream or an almond milk or a nut milk. Put that in a blender. You can pour it in little cups or you can pour it in a tray, freeze it, pull it out, and it can give you that creamy consistency without giving you the problems that ice cream can have for your blood sugar.
So we had to get into this because I know we have some ice cream lovers. I know somebody that's watching this loves your ice cream. So what are the 10 worst ice creams? Again, it seems to be these are the things that have multiple names. Again, Ben & Jerry's peanut butter cup, Cold Stone Founder's favorite, Haagen-Dazs cookie dough, Bluebell vanilla. So if it's any other Bluebell, then you know it falls in this line, right? Breyer's Delights, Magnum double caramel pint, Dairy Queen Blizzard, Friendly Sunday cups, Halo Top, some flavors, and Turkey Hill Premium. Some of these I've never heard of. They're probably in different areas of the country. But these are the 10 worst ice creams for your health. So let's flip the script. Let's talk about the best vegan ice creams. And I'm going to say it again. Don't knock it until you try it. So delicious. I've tried So Delicious. And it is really so delicious. Here's some others. Nadamu, Oatly brand. These are the brand names. Van Leeuwen Vegan, Jenny's Dairy Free, Cato, Eclipse Foods, Rebel, Vegan Line. See, this is your health. So why not at least give them a try until they get as close to what you are accustomed to and you find something that you say, okay, I can do this and it's a lot healthier for me.
Number one, refined carbohydrates. You gotta get rid of the refined carbohydrates. As a matter of fact, they are not a food, okay? Refined carbohydrates are not a food. We are not supposed to be eating any of them. It's not that we're supposed to eat them sparingly. We're supposed to completely eliminate them from our food supply. What are refined carbohydrates? That's white bread, that's white flour, that's breakfast cereals, that's pizza dough, that's white rice, that's pasta, okay? And notice I said refined, okay? Refined means processed. That means that all of anything that was good in it was taken out. The vitamins, the minerals, the trace elements, etc. They were taken out, okay? That also means the fiber was taken out too. Anything good in it was removed from it. This is what allows it to stay on the shelf for longer, okay? When you take things out that are natural, now it's unnatural. It can last longer, okay? Now, this is why these foods, once they're robbed of all their nutrients, okay, they've been processed out of them. This is why they're then enriched, because they were poor, okay? So they're then enriched with unnatural vitamins and minerals and unnatural fiber that your body most likely will not recognize because real recognize real. So you gotta stay away from the refined carbohydrates. Hugely important. If I were to sort of rank what are the most dangerous foods in the American diet, in the European diet, it is refined carbohydrates, bar none. It's one of the most dangerous foods out there because insulin resistance and high blood sugar is the cause of most diseases because it creates so much inflammation in the body, okay? It paralyzes the immune system. So you gotta stay away from, eliminate all of them, okay? They are not needed, they are not a food, eliminate them.
Eliminate them, he says, eliminate them. So just hang in here because I want to finish this because next session we're going to talk about all the good things. Right now we're talking about all the stuff to avoid. Next week we're going to talk about all the great foods that you should.
White breads and pasta. Eating white breads and pasta can be like eating candy in some ways because they're loaded down with sugars and they have very little protein and fiber. So when you eat white bread and when you eat instant noodles or when you eat white pasta, this is definitely bad for your diabetes. What you want to do is change to whole grain. So you want to use whole grain breads and whole grain pastas. And you definitely want to avoid bagels because some bagels can have 45 grams of carbs. Ezekiel bread is something to try because it has some protein and some fiber, and it's definitely better as far as helping to prevent you from having the spikes in blood sugar. Also, if you're eating white rice, change to brown rice or try quinoa. Either way, white breads and pastas are some of the worst foods you can eat if you're diabetic.
Listen, I mean, they just make it so easy to do the wrong thing. I mean, the top ramen noodles, she said the instant noodles, $4, right?
Soda or pop, depending on where you're from, is another thing that diabetics should avoid because when you have soda that has sugar in it, one 12-ounce can of soda can have 32 to even up to 40 grams of sugar. And again, these liquid calories can be really bad trouble for diabetics because you drink a soda and then guess what? You're thirsty for more, you're thirsty for more. So you're taking in calories, you're taking in sugar, and having this sugar can lead to weight gain. Also, some of this sugar can be processed by the liver and turn into fat. And so it's all a problem. So if you have diabetes, you want to avoid these sodas that have sugar.
That's why they've gone from the 6-ounce to the 12-ounce to the 16-ounce to the 24-ounce to the liter. Oh my God. So what are we going to do? No matter who you are, no matter who's watching this, and I hope somebody invited you to watch it because they loved you enough for you to take care of yourself. You can take steps. I don't care how long you've been a diabetic, how long it's been diagnosed. You can take steps to prevent or lower your chances of diabetes. Number one, you got to exercise. You got to get some movement in, at least 30 minutes of moderate workouts 5 days a week. If you're sitting in a chair, you can do some chair exercises. We've got to watch what we eat. We've got to be intentional. Cut the sugar, saturated fats, and the salt. Add the leafy green vegetables. Fall in love with them. The whole grains, the salmon, and other foods high in omega-3 fatty acids. We need more omega-3 fatty acids in our life. Keep your weight at a healthy range. Have some regular checkups with your doctor. Go to some cooking classes. Educate yourself and support programs that build good habits. And in closing,
diabetes is so common. In fact, according to the CDC, 1 out of every 10 Americans has it. And that's not even including the people who have pre-diabetes. So here's the big deal. Diabetes is a leading cause of heart disease, strokes, poor circulation, poor wound healing, amputations. And trust me, as a board certified kidney doctor, I see firsthand that diabetes is the #1 cause of kidney failure. It's the #1 reason that I see people in my dialysis unit. You don't want it. So yes, we have lots of medications that can treat diabetes, but here's the key. It's important what you put in your mouth. Your diet matters. And so if you know some of the foods to avoid if you have diabetes, you can have better control. And if you don't have diabetes, it can even help you to prevent yourself from getting it.
So one of the things that we definitely need to do is to detoxify our blood cells. If you're a diabetic, if you've been diagnosed, if you're pre-diabetic, if you're insulin resistant, if you're having a challenge with sugar, one of the things that you need to do is detoxify your blood cells. And bitters is one of the ways to do that. It's a very easy 4-day detox. Does it taste good? No, it doesn't. But it gets the job done. And it helps to boost your digestion. It helps to regulate your appetite, reduce those cravings that wake you up in the middle of the night for unhealthy foods. It supports the liver detoxification. It helps to eliminate fat-soluble toxins. It helps to alkalize the body and reduce that inflammation that's causing all that bloatage and those pains, because when you're inflamed, you're in pain. And it helps to improve the microbiome. That's the gut. So whatever your goals are, you need to begin with that 4-day detox. And if you really, really want to push the envelope, do a 7-day or a 21-day raw cleanse. Find out from the person that loves you enough to share this information with you, because it's really easy to do any of these and they'll walk you through the process. Because see, it's not about suffering or being strict. It's about resetting your body. It's about reversing the direction that you may have been going, and maybe it's been diagnosed, but I promise you, if you will take control of your lifestyle, you can reverse whichever direction you're going. So begin with the detox. I hope that you'll get this. I hope you share it with somebody else. It's been great that you've been here today, and we're excited that you have made up your mind to learn the truth. We'll see you next time.